Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Today's video is going to contradict some of the previous information I've put out, but there is an argument to be made here, and in my prepping journey, I am adjusting to this philosophy. So let's just get right into it. I'd like to hear your comments down below. What are your arguments for or against it? And if you have a friend or family member that would benefit from the information from this video, then share it with them. So I've made videos on, the first gun you should buy, and I still believe it should be a 22 long rifle, followed in a close second by a 12 gauge shotgun. The ammo for both of those firearms is plentiful and fairly cheap. The 22 a little bit more so than the shotgun ammo. Now, the biggest positive for a 22 long rifle is the fact that the ammo is extremely small. You can lug around a lot of it. It's fairly cheap for practicing, whether you're doing FTXs or just general marksmanship and just firearms training. But when it comes to any type of situation, whether you're more prepping along the lines of, a Minuteman, or you're prepping for some sort of societal collapse, I got to get this out of the way. I don't think as a prepper you should be thinking of this as like some sort of massive war, two big factions going at each other, although that is a possibility. But our modern firearms and what our countries use to fight has changed drastically, and I honestly think the U.S. Army is changing for the better. We've used the 5.56 round or the 2.23, whichever one you want to go with, for roughly 75 years. Started using it in the 60s in Vietnam, and the biggest thing for that is, one of our main rifles was the M1 carbine, the other one was the M1 Grand, and they wanted a smaller round with a higher velocity. That way they could effectively put more lead downrange on target. And in doing that, their doctrine kind of switched from severely wounding and or eliminating a target to the idea was if you shot someone with the 22 caliber round, you would most likely wound them and therefore take 2 or 3 other guys out of action to care for that individual. Now the Army is in the final process of switching to a 6.5. They're determining who is going to get the contract for that right now. And it's mainly because they want a harder hitting round. And as a prepper, I really think you should look at it from the Minutemen militia perspective. Most prepping groups aren't hundreds strong. They're not going to be a typical, military unit. You would most likely use guerrilla tactics. You would most likely do hit and run, very opportunistic moves. And in a grid down situation where, most of the laws were, out the door and, there might not be enough people to enforce them and chaos is all around, you really don't want to get in a prolonged engagement, and the closer you are to the engagement, the more you're putting yourself at risk. And using the 2.23 or the 5.56 round is not going to eliminate your threat as well as some of the rounds we used to use in the past. World War I, World War II time frame, most countries were using something along the lines of a 30 caliber round, whether it's the German 8mm Mauser round, the 303 British round, the Russian 7.62 by 54, slightly bigger than a 308 round. The U.S. military using a 30-06 round, and then the smallest rounds was coming from like France, Italy, Japan, and like a 6.5, ranging from 6.5 by 51 up to like the Swiss 55. Uh, but I'm making the argument for the 30 caliber round. A standard M16 or M4 variant or AR is going to be, the max effective range is arguably between 600 and 800 meters, but you're losing a lot of velocity and your round target area widens a lot. With a 30 caliber round, you've got a lot more powder behind it, you've got a lot more weight behind it, and it fits in with the scenario of you don't want to get involved in a long drawn out engagement. You don't want to be anywhere near what you are firing at. It goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. Skirmishing units or militia units typically didn't want to get up close and personal because that meant the fully trained, professional, mostly cohesive unit was able to put a lot more lead into you. The further away you are, it allows more mobility to relocate to a better position or fall back from the scenario entirely. Um, while as preppers, we do prep and plan for um, you know, this scenario. That's why we purchase firearms and why we spend time at ranges and doing training. I think any fight that you can avoid is a good day, and any chance that you can get out of harm's way is a good thing. If you want to go out in a blaze of glory, then that's your own prerogative. But here recently, I have been putting a lot of ammo downrange with my 30-30, and its effective range is several hundred meters past the effective range of the AR-M4 style firearms. I did purchase a 300 Blackout, and it is in the 30 caliber realm, but it is more of bridging a gap of being in the close range scenario, but having the weight of the round and the higher velocity with a little bit of extra powder. So you're hitting harder at the same close distance with that. Um, if you want to go with the modern version, then I would really consider some sort of SCAR. I don't know if it's the SCAR H or SCAR L, or an AR-10 variant. Um, and I say variant because you could put a 6.5 Grendel or Creedmoor in that category. You could put in, 50 Beowulf or 458 SOCOM, somewhat within that realm. But the biggest argument is having something that is designed and made for, taking something out at a further distance. Because the further away you can stay while still being able to protect and defend yourself, in my opinion, is a better option. Especially if you live out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe you're off in, a distant suburb. If you're in a city, it might not be your best bet, but most preppers, if you're going along the lines of self-sustainability, then you need land for that, and most of the time you find land out in the middle of nowhere. So the biggest pro for this is you're further away from a situation where someone else is firing back at you. It allows you to kind of dictate the battle a little bit better. The further away you are, the more space you can maneuver with, because you typically have greater cover slash concealment. Plus, the further away you are, unless you're highly trained, then accuracy does diminish the further away you get. And then the downsides of it is most of those firearms are a little bit more expensive. The civilian market of the militia side of things tends to mimic the military. That's why the AR-15 is as popular as it is. It's mostly an M4 without the capabilities of burst or going full auto. Um, but as the U.S. government transitions into a harder hitting, so meaning heavier round, higher velocity firearm, I imagine their training will adjust for greater distances, and there should be more variants that pop up in the civilian side. For me personally, I really think the M1 carbine is a great choice. Um, an AR-10, I would put just slightly above it, but I don't have that. If you want to go a little old school, then most of your deer rifles will do just fine. They're probably going to be a bolt action. Um, it's basically in the same category as the lever action here. Uh, but if you're wanting a little bit more modern, that you've got rails that you can put, different scopes or holographic sights or something on it, then go with that. But that's really up to you. My main point in this video is I think preppers should start transitioning into the 30 caliber round, maybe the 6.5 millimeter round, or you know even bigger. Go with a 4570, go with a 243, 7 millimeter, 25-06, 30-06. The further away from you are from the situation, I think the better. And that's all I got for you. So, like I said, leave your thoughts and suggestions on this topic down below. Am I just crazy for, um, trying to, mimic the military on this one? Are you going to stick with your 5.56 AR, or maybe you're just going to tough it out with a 22 and 50,000 rounds because you never stopped buying it? I don't know. But share the video with a friend or family member, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.